material. And rather than further overloading your brain, let it marinate and go back and pick up on certain things that you need to review, but don't overdo it, right? Okay, let's keep going. Leo, can you read this last paragraph, please?
Which Leo? Me or the other?
Let's go with Leo O.
Students should skim, not study, old hunter material. Research shows that learning brand new content the day before the exam as it crowds their short-term memory with last-minute information. Cramming the night before can interfere with students' long-term memory retrieval and bias their decision-making skills.
Right. So, what we don't want to do is cram everything you've learned, but there are certain things that we might want to review the night before the exam. Can anyone list out certain things that are definitely worth revisiting right before you go to bed the night before your exam, or as you're driving or taking the train the morning of? Gabriel, can you share something, please?
Maybe some formulas in math, like area of a circle or how to find probabilities.
Right. By now, you've taken about 100 plus math questions. You know which formulas you're familiar with, and maybe you learned some new formulas. Take the time now to make yourself a math formula sheet and review it consistently, right? You can quiz yourself, you can have your sibling or your parent quiz you. One of the ways that I know that I've processed something fully is when I feel comfortable teaching it to someone else. So use the time up until your exam to see if you can do that. Okay? Gabriel, thank you. Talia, can you share something, please? Oh, Ismail, go ahead.
Um, Another thing you should study is like the essay rules and like the criteria and like what you're supposed to do for it so that you don't mess up on the day of the test.
Yeah, in terms of the essay, you have a copy of the rubric, right? You're going into the exam knowing exactly what the graders are looking for. Remember those key words that we circled yesterday when we were going over the rubric? Jot them down so that you can remember them as you're writing your essay. Keywords like hook, figurative language, organized, cohesive, transition words, things like that. Another really good strategy for the essay is to think of some foundations or think about some topics that you feel comfortable writing about. There's certain topics that the Hunter exam can ask you to write about. So I would suggest having a bank of 3 to 5 personal experiences. Think about hobbies or moments that happened in your life that you feel you can apply to different essays. Jot down very specific descriptive details and see if you can use them on the day of. This could save you some time when you're planning or writing your essay. Another thing you could do is go over a list of advanced transition words, vocab words, and treat it like formulas, but for the essay, right? These are all tools that you can use now as well as on the exam. Okay? Zara, do you want to share one more thing?
Yeah, I have a vocab polar prep book. So I've been just reviewing some vocab because I know that vocabulary is worth 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Vocab. But remember what we talked about yesterday is that you want to use it in the right context. You want to make sure that the vocab words you're using are at the right level and that they are relevant. Okay.
They're
Aria?
all from oh sorry.
Oh, yep, Zara.
They're all from like a Qualitas book.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a great resource. Aria, go ahead.
Another thing I'm thinking about before the exam is like what I'm gonna see during the reading part. Like I'm mostly thinking about the stories, how I'm gonna approach it, what questions I'm gonna ask myself, what I'm looking for, either character development, date, etc. Like different abbreviations that can help me. And I'm mostly thinking about that, and I'm thinking like or if I see something on the test or during the reading, how am I going to approach it? Am I going to use positive or negatives? Am I going to use process of elimination?
Right. Aria's giving us a really useful two-part strategy for the reading section. First, she's saying that she's getting into the mind of the test maker and already proactively thinking about what kinds of questions are they going to ask me, depending on the type of passage, right? Do you think it'll be more fact recall questions or questions where they want you to pick up on little details? Or do you think it will be more mood or tone or imagery and figurative language questions if it's a poem or a narrative passage? And then the second part is actively reading. And the best way to do that is to annotate. If you think something is important, it probably is, and it's worth to pay attention to it closely as you're reading the passage. That way you can mark it in the passage and you know exactly where to go back to get your evidence when you're answering the question. Look out for names, dates, places. Sometimes you want to circle or underline phrases that describe how characters are feeling or any key points in the plot, right? Because those will probably show up in your questions. Okay, great. Hugo?
Uh, but for time management, for example, do you get to choose in your 3 hours what you're gonna do? For example, you can choose that you're gonna do maybe if you take less time doing reading or math, you can choose to take more time on another thing, or do they tell you when to end the reading and start the math and end the math and start the essay?
Um, Francis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there is a separation between the reading and essay portion and the math section where they take away the booklet.
In the past, they did not. They gave you one, but they gave you one booklet and you decide how you want. So that historically, it was not separated. I can't predict right now, but historically it was one booklet and they would get all three sections at once. But this time around, they have two math sections.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll confirm with Ben because I saw in an email response to a parent, he had mentioned that there will be some. I'll check and I'll send an email confirming that. All right.
Okay.
Zara, do you have a question?
Yeah, so what's the order? Is it still gonna be essay slash ELA, then math, quantitative reasoning, then math achievement?
Yeah,
Okay. And they're gonna take away the test packets, right?
that's what I'm gonna confirm. All right. Okay. Gabriel?
I was in like a winter break, color prep too, with Nina, and when we did our tests, we did it in an order that we actually had to manage our time. So she set up an alarm, and after 40 minutes, we had to move on to essay, even if we're not done with reading, and do that because that's what they had on their website. Like that was the times they had. But then now I guess it says that those times are suggested. So I don't really know. Like, do you think that it'll be suggested like how it used to be, or do you think it'll be timed?
I would say the best thing to do is to check the resources on the Hunter College High School admissions website. Um, I can look into that and I can confirm, but they would definitely have the latest answers there because it'll be coming directly from the school and the admissions team. All right,
Okay, thank you.
great. Awesome. Let's move on. Okay, so here we just have some videos that you can watch in your free time. There's a review of test one. This is additional.
Let's read over. Yeah, let's read everything. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Katie, could you read this one?
Katie, do you hear us?
Yeah, I know.
You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Students have learned everything they possibly can at this point. They should review what they already know. Parents should remind children that they did everything possible to prepare for this test. By now, students completed several practice exams and sacrificed weekends and evenings to study. They can look for hours before the test. Sorry. Words have powers. Remind your children to engage in positive self-talk. Keep the energy high and happy at home. Remind your child that they are superheroes just for trying to take such a hard test.
Great. And here I want to share an anecdote that one of my teachers told me when we were studying for the SAT, which, by the way, will be the test that you take in high school to get into the best colleges. And she told me that your mind is like a sponge, right? And it can only take so much. And, once you've reached that point where you've learned everything that you can, and this is the point that you're at now, you've done your practice tests, homework, we've reviewed over 200 questions. Now's the time that you just let it soak in until the day of your test. You don't want to keep overfilling it, okay? Just focus on questions that you missed. Make sure that you understand them inside out because it's very possible something similar is going to show up on the exam. And truthfully, that's a great feeling when you go into an exam and you see a question that you practiced. I remember when I was studying here for my standardized exams, I went in and I was surprised how many questions I could confidently answer because I was familiar with that question format. Okay. So now's the time that you not only want to study the formulas, the rules, and the concepts, but you want to pay attention to the questions. Read the type of reading comprehension questions they're asking you and pay close attention to the phrasing. Same with the math questions. Look at a couple questions that test you on triangles or circles and see how they're set up because it's likely you'll see something really similar on the exam. Same with probability. You're probably going to have a similar word problem. You're just going to have different names of people in the question or different things that you're taking the probability of. Okay. So, what you need to remember is that you are prepared because you've done this practice. You're going to have questions that might look different, but they are testing you on these same things that we reviewed already. Okay. All right. So here we just have some videos that you can look at in your free time, but notice we're not encouraging you to study new content the night before the exam. When you're looking at this file, just look at the tips and don't open up these exams and start cramming new questions. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the exam. And I always think it's very helpful to get super confident with the structure of the exam that you're taking because something that makes me feel stressed or nervous when I'm taking an exam is things that are unknown. And we can control certain things that we know, like feeling comfortable with the structure of the exam, feeling comfortable with the way that it's graded, the way that it's scored, the rubric, and things like that. So let's read this section next. Noah, can you please read the paragraph and the bullets on this slide?
The Hunter College High School entrance exam is administered by Hunter College High School in partnership with the Educational Testing Service (ETS) and the Educational Research Bureau. The exam is administered under standardizing school-based testing conditions. The January 2026 Hunter exam includes the following sections: reading comprehension, multiple choice, writing assignment, essay/writing prompt, quantitative reasoning, multiple choice, math section 1, mathematics achievement, multiple choice math section 2.
Great. So these are the sections that we're familiar with, and they test us on two important things, just in different ways, whether it's reading or math. The first one is your critical thinking skills, right? On reading comprehension, you might have to make inferences, find details to support conclusions, or identify the best vocab word. And on math, you're using critical thinking skills for every question, whether it's algebra, geometry, probability. Sometimes they throw in logic questions. But the second very, very important thing that they are testing you on is how careful you are. There's a lot of questions on this exam that you can miss by not being careful, right? On the reading section, you might make a mistake because you overlook a certain word in the question or the answer choice. Or, for example, it might be one of those questions where it says, which of the following is not true? We really don't want to make those types of mistakes because they're not reflective of your true potential, right? Had you been careful, you would have gotten that question right. Same with the math section. Imagine doing a lot of steps correctly on a challenging topic like exponents or factoring or Pythagorean theorem, but then instead of solving for angle A, you solve for angle B. Those are not the type of mistakes that we want to make, right? On every test, there's going to be that handful of questions that are just very difficult. And the test makers know that. They're there intentionally. And I still feel that when I'm taking exams up to this day. And so on those questions, we can try our best. And then in the end, we sometimes may have to make an educated guess. But what we don't want to do is make careless or silly errors on simple questions. So remember, this exam is testing you on your critical thinking skills as well as how careful you are. Okay? Ayushi?
What score do you have to get to be on the waiting list or get accepted?
Francis, would you know the best answer for that? For the waiting list score, I'm not familiar with how that's done at Hunter. Zara, do you have a question?
I think I know how the grading system works. I think that the best position would be a 75%. And I believe that's also like 76, 77-ish. 70% is like a maybe, which is also 71, 72, like in that range. And that's pretty much it. That's all I know. It might not be reliable. That's what I've been told.
And can you guys just don't click the button? It's very distracting. Lena, whatever it is, the thumbs up, like no more, please. Thank you.
Yes, everyone, please no emojis. This is a really important session before your exam. Aria, yeah? Can you
Do
share?
do you know like maybe the max amount we can get wrong on this test just because I like keeping it in my mind. So like for some that I'm a little bit confused about, I'm able to go back and really think about it.
I would say try to keep it to less than 5 questions per section if possible. Um, Less than 5 questions per section, meaning that you leave blank and go back to or take a guess on. Okay. Yeah. Gabriel, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. So, from other classes that I've been to, they've all said that a good range is a 60 to a 70. But like, it really depends on what other people get. So, it might be like a 90 might not be enough, but I think like an 80 would be like perfect.
Yeah, so that's because this is a standardized exam. And with most standardized exam, you have to be like above a certain percentile to be admitted. And that's because it depends on how many seats they have available. So they can only take the top amount of people that they would have seats for, which is why it's not like a flat out cutoff that never changes. For example, 75%, um, it can vary each year. So we really strongly urge you to go in with the mindset of, rather than how many questions can I get wrong, I need to get correct as many questions as possible. I think that when I've adopted that mindset, it really has transformed the way I take exams and help me. Yeah, because then also it's kind of a stress reduction tip in itself because you're less focused or worried on getting questions wrong, right? Transition your mindset to I might be getting this question right because I'm using this detail to make an educated guess, or I'm using my knowledge to make a guess with whatever details and time I have. Okay. Zara, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I just want to say I was really sorry. I think I mixed up the numbers, so don't listen to anything I said.
Okay, yeah, no worries. And everyone, thank you for sharing. Okay. As you all know, there's 5 choices, so each question has a 1/5 chance. Each choice has a 1/5 chance or 20% probability of being right, which is why it's so much better to guess. You should absolutely not leave anything blank. That is not going to benefit you. So first look at the choices and see if you can eliminate them. And here, maybe we can talk a little bit about what are the best strategies to use when it feels like there's not much that you can do. I like to first scan the choices and see if there are any outliers. Like, for example, are choices A and D really far apart, but maybe B and C are closer to each other if it's a math problem? Or maybe B and C are reciprocals, right? The fact that they're reciprocals might mean that one of them is the wrong choice because you forgot to take the reciprocal, right? Or you're taking the slope of the wrong line if they're perpendicular, right? So those are strategies that I like to use. For vocab questions, one of the best things to do is identify pair words. You can look for synonyms, words that have similar meanings, or you can look for antonyms, words that have opposite meanings. If there's 2 synonyms, that probably can't be the answer if they mean the same thing, unless they can be used in different contexts. Okay, so then it's up to you to use your judgment and pick which one is better. Okay. Does anyone else want to share any process of elimination strategies that they use? Or maybe you found a really great strategy to guess on a certain type of question. Anyone want to share? Aria, go ahead.
So something I like a strategy that I have that really helped me during reading questions, like there was a lot of questions that was like, what is the tone, or like what is this sentence help, or even just regular questions. And something that really helped me, that I've learned is that like to pick up a vibe on something. So while I'm reading the story, I'm picking like some sort of vibe on it, like if it's either scary, if it's cheerful. And while I'm answering the questions, I have that mindset because they could possibly lead to a question that's very similar.
Yeah, and I really like the strategy for reading comprehension of because I feel like when you're picking up the vibe of a story, what you're doing is kind of adapting strategies that the author is using, and you're becoming a better writer yourself. And this leads me to a strategy you can use for the essay, right? When you're writing your essay, you have just read probably between 3 to 4 very descriptive or narrative stories. And so the strategies and techniques that those authors were using are fresh in your head. See if you can do anything similar. Maybe there was a particular imagery or figurative language that they used that inspired you. Now, you don't want to replicate it or copy it exactly, but what you can do is use it as a foundation and make it your own so that way it doesn't feel like you're starting from scratch. Ingrid, can you share with us, please?
So I have two things. The first is if you're doing grading before writing, first read the writing prompts so you have time to think about what you're doing the reading. And
Mm-hmm.
the second thing is before the test, have a letter that you're going to guess on the questions that you have no idea for, so that you don't spend a really long time looking at the same one that you don't know how to do.
Yes, that's a classic strategy of having one letter that you're going to guess on, because if you just stick to that one letter, there is, according to the law of large numbers, which is a very advanced statistic concept that I learned when I studied math in college, but it's basically saying over many runs or many questions, the probability is eventually going to be 20% if you just keep guessing randomly, but it's the same choice rather than changing it up. But however, I would add the caveat that you should only use that strategy in the situation where you're blindly putting a choice, right? Even if you have 10 seconds, it's absolutely worth skimming the question. Sometimes that's enough time to answer it completely, or sometimes that's enough time to eliminate 2 or 3 choices and then increase your probability to 50%, which is a lot more. Okay. You have your hand up, but your name on Zoom is Jay. Can you please share?
Yeah, another strategy that you can use is like, for example, like this works with reading and math, but usually just reading. But when you're reading, and like it's like okay, select like the tone of the story or something like that. If it's clear that like the tone of the story is like cheerful and happy, you can always eliminate like dark and gloomy because you can like the first thing I would usually do on stuff like that, like I eliminate the ones that definitely aren't right, and then you narrow it down to the last like 2 or 3 that definitely make sense, and then choose the best out of that.
Exactly. And then a lot of the times we're in that situation where we're just stuck between 2 choices. And there's typically what I like to do is I like to trust my gut. I like to go with the choice that I thought first, right? And then I take a break from those questions. Sometimes we just need to process like exactly what we're doing now. Instead of doing more questions, we're just processing everything you've already learned. So you can move on, do some other questions for that passage because maybe they're even going to help you go back and answer it. A lot of the times we see these connecting questions, two questions back to back, which are basically asking you the same thing. So instead of spending too much time going back and forth, just circle or put a star next to the one that's your first choice or the one that your gut is telling you, then move on, come back to it. And if you still can't figure it out, or if you haven't found concrete evidence to sway you for the other choice, circle it, and that would be the best strategy. Okay? We should not be spending too much time on any one question because when you do that, you're preventing yourself from getting other questions right that could be easier, right? You don't want to be in the situation where at the end of one section, like math, for example, there's 10 easy questions that you know how to solve. You just can't get to them with the time you have left, right? Like it's just not possible to solve more than half of them because most likely there's not going to be any greater of a chance that you got that question right that was tricky and you were spending so much time on, but you're just preventing yourself from getting other questions right that are later on in the booklet. Okay. Let's have a reader for this. Zara, can you please read these two paragraphs?
Sure. Choose the best answer for each question. Oh, wait, sorry. The Zoom is blocking my view. Sorry. Choose the best answer for each question. You may make marks in this test booklet. Use a space between questions and the blank pages in your booklet for scrap paper. Do not leave any questions unanswered. There's no penalty for guessing. On the answer sheet, carefully blacken the circle that contains the letter of the answer you select. Use only number 2 pencil for the multiple choice selections. If you wish to change your answer, carefully erase the wrong answer completely and mark your new answer.
Thank you. And I'll share another anecdote here about something my dad taught me when we were studying math, because as I might have shared, I studied math in college because at that point I got really strong at math and I really loved it. And I was so curious about theories and applications, but I wasn't always the best math student. In fact, in middle school, I really struggled. And that's because I don't think I was approaching math the right way. So what my dad told me was that you have to really visualize it, okay? And he told me that because he's an engineer. So what he does at work every day is basically solve real live math problems, and they have to draw everything out, right? Any piece that they're producing or building, they draw it out and they label it carefully. And you should be using that same mindset when you're taking the exam. Anytime you have a geometry question, label everything because on the surface, on the paper, it looks like there's less information. But then maybe you extend a line and you see that two angles are vertical angles. Now you know that they're equal. Okay? Or for example, sometimes you just need to draw a circle and now you have 360 degrees that you can work with. Okay? So remember, be visual. Take your time reading the questions and setting them up because once you understand it, you can solve them right away. And that's a much better strategy for time management than reading the question quickly and then getting lost when you're actually trying to solve it. Okay? And use the strategy for reading as well. We talked already about annotating the passages. And for the essay, make sure that you're starting with a solid outline. Use the paper and space that they give you to plan your paragraphs. Okay? Maybe you want to even write down certain vocab words or adjectives or figurative language that you want to use, but you feel like you're going to forget once you start writing. Jot them down right away. Okay? Alrighty. Casper, can you please read what's on the page?
As soon as you finish one section of the test, go on to the next section. Monitor the time the proctor writes on the board. Calculators and electronic devices are not permitted. The topic of the writing assignment is on page 18. Scrap paper for the writing assignment is provided on page 19. If you use the scrap paper, be sure to copy your entire writing assignment onto page 20 and 21. You do not need to include the title. You may use a pen or a pencil for the writing assignment. If you complete the test before the time is up, you may review your previous work to correct errors. Ensure that your answer sheet is accurately and neatly prepared. Answers must be recorded on the answer sheet. Answers written in the test booklet will not be scored unless you have a previously approved accommodation. Do not leave any questions unanswered. Again, there is no penalty for guessing, so guess.
Right. And this is so important because as you're doing these multiple choice questions and you circle your answer choice in the test booklet, you should immediately transfer your choice to the bubble sheet or the Scantron or wherever you're going to be submitting your answers. Because imagine you complete all the questions and then you haven't touched your bubble sheet completely and you have 10 seconds left. It's going to be very, very difficult to bubble in 40 plus choices with 10 seconds. And also, it can be very difficult to bubble a lot of things at once because if you miss one and you just keep going, you have to erase a lot more. Whereas if you go one by one and then you skip one, you're going to catch it at the next one because you'll see, hey, I'm bubbling in number 17, but I just solved number 18. Okay. Sophie, do you have a question?
Yeah. Does electronic devices include regular watches?
You are allowed to bring a regular watch. You're not allowed to bring a smartwatch. So anything with texting, calling, audio, like it has to be a regular watch. Okay. And you can have that, you can put it on your table and you can track your time. Absolutely. You can, and then, you can also ask the proctors for a time update. For example, if you can't see the clock, listen out for the cues that they're going to be giving you, and use that as a warning if you need to move on to another section. Ismail?
So, we just saw that it said, that you're only supposed to use a number two pencil. So I'm confused on how it says you can use a pen or a pencil, but you can't use a pen for the multiple choice.
Well, we have to read very carefully. It says you may use a pen or pencil for the writing assignment, which is the essay. Okay, but for the bubble sheet, I'm assuming it has to be number two pencil. Otherwise, it won't be able to read it. Gabriel, do you have a question?
Yeah, so is it okay if it's like an electric watch, but it just has like the time on it and like a call section for only your mom and dad and like no calculators and nothing else?
No, I would not bring any electronic watch, because if they find it, they are not really going to want to spend time, deciding whether or not to let you keep it. There's so many students coming in to take this exam, right? So it's better to leave that at home and bring something that you know they're going to allow. Okay. Because if you have to leave it with them, you don't want to lose it. So it's just something I wouldn't recommend. Aria?
Two questions. The first one is, do you know approximately how many questions we're gonna have? Because I talked to a friend, and last year she took the test, it was 80 questions, but now apparently there's 130. So do you mind letting me know?
So it changes every year, and the reason is because they're adapting to the way that students are scoring and responding to the exam. So I would say that the best way that you can prepare is by using the two exams that we gave you in this course. That's going to be most accurate and representative of the latest information that's made available to us from Hunter on the structure of the exam. So I would suggest you that if you're referring to prior year's tests, you can look at the content and the types of questions to study the material, but focus on the most recent two exams for structure.
And then one more question. So we got earplugs for like in our things, or so I'm guessing other people are gonna be like maybe whispering to themselves. Are we allowed to like talk to ourselves during the test? Because they did give us earplugs, and I was a little bit unsure.
No, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to talk during the exam. I think that earplugs are more if certain students have accommodations or are sensitive to noise, or just sometimes it's easier to focus when it's quiet. Like when I take standardized exams, when I took one last year for my CPA, they offered me over the ear noise canceling headphones, but that absolutely didn't mean that I could talk out loud while solving the questions. Yeah. Okay. Nini, do you have a question?
Wait, about the digital watches thing, like if we have a watch that can only tell time, but it's not like the clock one, but it actually uses like numbers, like it displays numbers, but it has no other usage. Is that allowed?
Um, I honestly think the best answer to that is to look through the official Hunter website, because on there they have exactly what you can and can bring. And that's going to be the best source. I'm aware that you're not allowed to have electronic devices or electronic watches. So if it were me, I would just bring a watch that I know I can have with me. So ultimately it is up to you and your parents what you bring. It's just that you might not be allowed to have it, and you don't and that's going to add to the uncertainties that we're trying to prevent right now by talking about what to expect on the real day. So I wouldn't suggest that. Aria, do you have a question?
No, so sorry. It kept my hand up even though I put it down.
Okay, no worries. Let's move along. Zara, do you have a question?
Yeah. So let's say you're writing your essay and it's like the best essay ever. Like it's perfect. It's amazing. And you write about something like being stressed a lot. Like you little bits of thing and you're like really, really stressed or something. Will the 100 graders like grade you in a way that like in a bad way because of they're like, oh, we can't have people who stress a lot, or we can't have people who are late to classes because you write in your essay that you're late to class once.
Well,
Like
you
any bad behavior.
you should think about it this way. You have an opportunity to write something positive about yourself. So why would you not want to take that opportunity? That doesn't mean you should not be your real, authentic self. It just means that you should pick a topic that you are comfortable submitting. Okay? maybe like, you've heard the expression like don't say anything you wouldn't be comfortable with, your mom hearing, right? If you're already having these thoughts ahead of the exam, like, should I write about this? The answer is probably no, there's something better. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Jay, sorry, what's your name? I'll change it
It's
on your
Lydia.
Lydia? Okay.
So I have two questions. One, I was wondering, let's say you're like having a hard time deciding what you're gonna write for the essay. Should you like, because I know you're supposed to try to do the essay first, so you have time, like you don't have to rush it later. Um, but if you're like let's say you're having a really hard time on the topic of the essay or whatever, you just should you just keep trying to power through it for a little bit, or should you go back and finish the multiple choice and then come back to it?
You should finish the multiple choice first, absolutely, because you only get your essay read if you pass a certain cutoff score on multiple choice. So
Okay.
even if you have the most perfect essay, it might not get read if you don't meet that first cutoff, which is with the multiple choice. Okay.
Okay. And one other question. It says the wait list is 2 years long, but like, what's the difference between getting accepted like now and the wait list? Like, do you have to have, like, let's say you have to have like a 90th percentile, right? Like over 90th percentile to get in right away. Is it like you have to get, if you get a slightly lower, you get waitlisted, or like, how does it work?
Let's read here what it says first. Okay. Um, and then we'll come back to that question since it's next on the slides. Jason, did you have
Okay.
another question?
Yeah, so if we have one of those, like if we're writing about a topic, but we decide that it might not be good, but we've already started it for like 10 minutes and it will waste time to like change it now, should we just continue with it?
No, because it's like exactly the same answer I gave Zara. Like, you're already having doubts about what you're writing. If you're having these doubts, the grader is definitely going to probably have the same comments and feedback for your essay. So it's better to take what you have, and if you can't add to it to make it relevant, um erase and remove certain parts. It's sometimes unrealistic to undo a whole essay. So you have to be strategic about it, but I would say you don't want to continue writing something that you are not confident is meaningful or purposeful or most importantly relevant. You have to be relevant to the prompt and you have to answer the thing they're asking you. Imagine they're saying, write an essay about a meaningful summer day you spent in New York City last summer, and you write your whole essay about a day that you spent in Canada in Niagara Falls. Your essay is irrelevant to the prompt, and I can't imagine there's much vocab words or figurative language that would help you, because it shows first and foremost to the graders that you're not careful at reading the question. And we talked about the two things they're testing you on, which is your critical thinking skills and how careful you are. Okay. Hugo, do you have a question?
Yeah, so are you saying that I should start with the multiple choice and end with the essay? Or start with the essay, do the multiple choice, and then review the essay?
I would do multiple choice first and then the essay. But however, what you can do is as soon as the essay is made available to you, right? And you have a choice of how to do your sections, take a peek at the essay topic just so you can get comfortable, even if you're not answering it right away, knowing what kind of essay you'll be writing, whether it's a narrative or a picture response or a poem response, can give you some time to prepare for it while you do other questions. So it's not like it intimidates you and then you have to write it right away. So take a peek at it, get comfortable and familiar, and you can maybe even start to brainstorm ideas or think about them loosely as you do any other questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Arya, do you have a question?
Yeah, you told Lydia before like that if you don't do good in your multiple choice, they might not even look at your essay. Is that true? Like even if you may not do pretty well on just one of the parts, well, they will still go through everything, correct?
If you don't meet a certain cutoff on multiple choice, you won't have your essay read. So what that means is once they decide what is going to be that year's multiple choice section cutoff, they're going to proceed with with the students' essays where they are above that cutoff. And then from that batch of students, they'll make their final decisions after they've scored your essays.
Do you think you know like a good like area to be for them to be able to read your essay for the multiple choice?
Like I said, if I would probably want to have less than 5 questions wrong per section. And I always like to think in nominal terms. And what that means is like real values, right? There's nominal rates and there's inflated rates, right? The inflated rate here would be the scaled score. No one really knows the exact formula for converting the scores and what it's going to be in that specific year. But what you do know is how many questions you can get right in proportion to how many there are in total, right? So for example, if there's 40 questions per section, I might want to leave room for, three questions wrong. Or if there's 50 questions on a section, maybe I'll leave room for 5 questions wrong. If I know that the combined quantitative reasoning plus math achievement section is 80 questions long, and I know that one section is much harder for me, I might say, okay, I'm only going to get 2 questions wrong on this section, but on the other one, and especially towards the end, because I know how I am and I get tired at the end of long exams, I can let myself get 8 questions wrong at the end. So that's the best way to think about it, because if we tell you to prepare for a certain number and you see something completely different on the exam, that's unexpected to you. And what we're trying to do now is like lower anything or lower the amount of unexpected things that will happen on the test day, if that makes sense. Okay. So always look at how many questions there are in total. Think about where your strengths and weaknesses lie, because every math and ELA multiple choice question is worth the same. Sometimes you might already know, like, I can let myself get more math questions wrong, but that means I have to be extra careful on ELA because that's what I'm stronger at. Or for me, I was the opposite. I would always say I'm going to try to get no math questions wrong or like 1 or 2, but then I'm gonna let myself get all of them wrong on ELA. Okay. And that's actually what happened to me when I was taking my SAT exam, which is like the college standardized admissions test. I got a perfect math score and I kind of strategized it that way. When I was studying, my tutors helped me identify my strengths and my weaknesses, and they gave me that advice like, you already know what you're good at, so you should focus on that. There's so much you can do to learn things that are new or difficult to you. And so I think that's one of the best strategies that has helped me. Um, when I did the SHSAT and also the SAT in college. My strategy was to try to do as well as possible on math because I knew it would help me because I struggled more on ELA. Okay. All right. Lydia, do you have a question?
Yeah. So, two questions actually. Just to be sure, so on our practice test, you told us we should probably finish our essay first so we can like make sure that graders can grade it. But on the real test, you want us to do the multiple choice first so that even if we got like even if our wait, right? Like you would want us to do the multiple choice first and then go to the essay.
So it depends, and I have to confirm on the structure of the exam, like whether they're going to take away your reading and essay booklet before you do math, because that makes a difference, right? But I would say that in my opinion, if I had the choice to do it in any order, I would do reading multiple choice, then take a break from reading and do some math multiple choice to activate my brain, and then end off with the writing. I think that they give you that suggested structure or format for a reason, so I would stick with it. And I would just monitor how much time I take on each question. Okay.
Let's say like you finish the book, like you have like 20, let's say like 15 minutes left, right? And you finish the whole packet. Let's say you like go back to one of your like reading multiple choice, and you like, and it's one of those cases where two of the questions are like pretty similar. And you already chose one, but like now you're thinking, oh, maybe it's this one. Do you think you should trust like the first time you went around, or should you change it?
Yes, you should trust your gut unless you found concrete evidence that points otherwise.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep, yep. Any other questions? Okay, so we're gonna talk briefly about the wait list, but it's important to remember that we are here to teach you the content and give you access to questions that you might see on the exam day. But we're not within the admissions system, so we don't have all the ins and outs of the waitlist process and things like that. So it may change. We don't know. What you need to focus on now is doing a good job on the test. So now you should not be worrying or focusing about the wait list and how long that is and what score you need, because what we want to do is feel confident tomorrow. I think Friday when you take the exam, right? You want to walk in there feeling confident and knowing I am going to get in. I studied and I'm going to do not a good job, but a fantastic job. Okay? Manifest that you will do well and just try your best and use the strategies that we've talked about. Okay? There's so many more than you realize. Okay. So here, I think it is talking a little bit more in depth about why the structure of the exam changed. So let's have a reader. Kate Z, can you please read?
Hunter College High School entrance exam update. January 2026. Hunter College High School will pilot a revised format for the HCHS entrance exam in January 2026 as part of its ongoing work to strengthen the admissions process. The updated exam will include a combination of Hunter-developed content and licensed content from the Independent School Entrance Exam (ISEE), which is owned by the Educational Records Bureau (ERB). January 2026 exam structure. The revised HCHS entrance exam will consist of 4 sections: English, Hunter developed. Reading comprehension, writing assignment, mathematics, ISEE, middle level. Quantitative reasoning, mathematics achievement. The two English sections reflect internal performance expectations and standards set by Hunter College High School faculty. The mathematics section are drawn from the ISEE middle level and are aligned with national standards established by the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, NCTM. These sections assess both mathematical reasoning and grade level mathematical.
Thank you, Kate. So, what are all of these words saying? They're basically saying that this is a standardized exam. It's meant to test concepts that you already know and things that you should be familiar with, but just at a slightly more difficult level. Like, for example, they test you on fractions, proportions, ratios, equations, things that you do in math class in school every day. They just put it in these question types, which feel more like puzzles or brain teasers than a state math exam question. Okay, so here it should be reassuring that this is a state exam and everyone else in the room is taking the same exact test as you. And, no one else is doing a different question that's harder or easier than what you have. You're all going in with a fair chance and use your tools, use your common sense, and all the formulas and rules that you learn, and you will be set for this exam. Okay. Now, I think here is where we talk about how important it is to have your admissions ticket. This is literally like your passport. Imagine you get to the airport all ready for a vacation and then you don't have your passport. They're not gonna let you in. So this is what you need for your real test day. And it's also an important source of frequently asked questions. Like, I think it might have some very important information on where, when your exam is. I think it's different for all of you. They have various testing centers across the different boroughs. So make sure that you study your admissions ticket and show up to the correct site at the correct time. And who can tell me what is the correct time to show up if your admissions ticket says 7:45 a.m.? Ismail?
You should show up at like 5 minutes earlier.
I
Like-
think that's not enough time. I think maybe like I would probably feel comfortable with 30 minutes. And the reason for that is like you can use that time. Maybe you'll see your friend or your classmate and you can catch up with them before the exam and de-stress a little bit, or use that time to activate your brain, right? Because yes, you do want to get as much sleep as possible, but you don't want to make the mistake of rolling out of bed and still be waking up as you're answering question number one. So I think that try to get there between 20 to 30 minutes early. Now, of course, if you have a very long commute, that's understandable, but I would say that's a good estimate. 20 to 30 minutes before your check-in time. Gabriel?
So Hunter like sended me like my ticket for the actual test, but I don't really know if I printed out the correct one because it says the room and the information. Is it supposed to say anything else?
I can't answer that because I'm not involved in the Hunter admissions process. So I would say the best thing to do now is either to contact Hunter College High School directly or your guidance counselor. or perhaps ask a classmate or someone who is also taking the exam. Maybe they have the answer. I wouldn't have that, unfortunately. Okay. So here we're suggesting that you can take your Arya, do you have a question or the answer?
Yes, sorry. I had an answer to Gabriel's question. My mom got this. It's like a printout. It just say your admissions ID, testing room, your name, date of birth, check-in time, check-in location, test room, parent's name, and then pickup. I just want to let you know that like they sent it and it just should have this stuff.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Aria. That's really helpful.
No
And
problem.
here we're saying you can take your Queller Prep study materials with you. And does this mean you should be doing a new practice test as you're taking the train to your testing center? Absolutely not. All you should have with you at this point, and I mean day of, is your math formula sheet, your essay list of vocab words, transitions, and descriptive phrases, and maybe like a little cheat sheet of the top 10 most important things you need to remember, or like common mistakes that you've made. Someone says, where can we get a formula sheet? This is something that you can make on your own, and it's a really great exercise because what you need to do essentially is memorize these challenging, tricky math formulas. So if you write them out several times or make flashcards, not only are you studying them, but you'll be left with a comprehensive list of things you need to remember. And the best place to get this is from the practice test we've looked at. Every time we did a question, I've given you the relevant formula or rule or theorem. And so you should have that in your notes. Also, it's in the, I think, Queller review materials. Okay. No, you cannot have these sheets during the exam. You cannot have a calculator. You cannot have anything besides your pencil and eraser and regular watch for the multiple choice, and then maybe a pen for the essay. Okay. All right. Your name on Zoom is Alina. Do you have a question?
Yeah, my name is William. Could we like also bring like a highlighter or something? Or should we just underline?
You should just underline. I wouldn't
Okay,
bring
got it.
it with you.
Lena, one of the Hunter accepted students told me that he brought a highlighter. He did bring a Queller highlighter to the test.
Okay, that's allowed, Francis?
Yeah, he said he used it. We had those highlighters with the 5 colors. He said he used it throughout the exam.
Okay, great. Then I would put that in your pencil case. Yep.
Yeah.
Oliver, do you have a question or want to share something?
Do we have to use pen for the final essay?
You don't have to. I think you'll have a choice. You can bring both with you and then decide which one, or they might tell you which one in that case. Okay. So here, Gabriel, do you have a question?
Do you know if like when we write the essay, will there be like a draft page or is it just like the final essay and that's it?
Yes, there will be a draft page and you should absolutely use it. Okay. So have plenty of sharpened pencils, have a quality eraser. Please don't bring one that's already used up and is the type that leaves more marks than it erases. You can bring a snack, a clear water bottle with you. I'm sure that you'll be hungry right before you take the exam. Maybe you can snack on that before you go in, or you can keep it to eat right after you finish taking the exam. As you're working on it, you should be using all the time that you can to do the questions. So I wouldn't, and I don't think this is allowed, I wouldn't eat during the exam. If you can, try to use the bathroom before you take the exam, because if you go while the clock is running, it comes out of the time that you have to do the questions. Okay. I'm not entirely sure whether there's going to be breaks. I can't answer that. Okay. But perhaps that's something you can ask the proctor once you get to the room. Okay. Even if you know, like 20 minutes before you start taking the exam, you can mentally prepare a bit. Okay. Lydia, do you have a question?
Yeah. So even if there were breaks, like would they take the time like out of your thing, or
Yeah.
because everyone was doing it, would they not?
They will take the time out of your exam.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here, this is just talking again about the important information on your ticket. It's telling you where your parents can pick you up and drop you off. And we are stressing to be here 30 minutes early for drop off. Okay. And then your parents should probably be there about 15 minutes before you're scheduled to end your exam so that they can find the right exit and they can meet you as soon as you leave. I'm sure you won't want to stay there any longer than you have to, right? Okay. This one is not that relevant. We're not in the days of COVID anymore, but do feel free to bring whatever makes you feel safe and confident. And now is where we'll really get into those stress reduction tips. You should be using time now to get ready for the exam. And half of that needs to be relaxing and doing things that are enjoyable to you because you should be training your mind now to perform strongly. And that doesn't just mean get questions correct, it means work under stressful, timed, pressure like conditions. And so use the time now to give your brain a rest, right? But still keep it active and keep the momentum going by reviewing things here and there. But for the most part, you will benefit more now by rewatching your favorite movie, spending some time with your friends or family, or, engaging in your hobby. You'll benefit more from that and then spending just a little bit of time reviewing things than overloading yourself with more material now. Zara, do you have a question?
Would you say to avoid all screens for now?
Avoid what?
All screens, like anything.
No, that's not necessary. I think you can definitely watch your favorite TV show or movie. Just get rest the night before the exam. And very important if you're like me and you wear glasses, even though I'm not wearing them right now, make sure you have those. Um, do feel free to tell the proctor if there's a clock in the room and you feel like you can't see it. You have the right to know how much time is left on your exam. So you can ask them and get updates, but they'll also be announcing. I know they go typically 1 hour left, or they say 2 hours left, 1 hour left, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minute, and then 1 minute. Okay. Do you have another question, Zara? Okay, Oliver?
Will we get spare paper during the test?
There is going to be scrap paper built into the test booklet, but I'm not aware that they'll have additional paper that they give you just because I don't think they'd want anyone leaving with test material if that makes sense, right? They want to keep that contained and confidential. Lydia, do you have a question?
Yeah. So, I kind of forgot what I was going to say. Can I
Yeah.
ask later?
Aria?
I do have a question. Are we allowed to bring any paper? Like, are we allowed to bring the essay rubric to look over just to make sure we check
No.
everything off?
You're not allowed to bring anything, any resources with you. Yep. Oliver?
So my mom is asking if they will tell you when the sections stop, or like do you have to keep track of it yourself?
Every time I've ever taken a standardized exam, and this includes certain tests for high school, like I took both Hunter College High School exam, SHSAT, I took the SAT. There's typically a clock in the room that you're taking it, and on the whiteboard or screen, the proctor writes time start, time end, and time now. And like at first they do 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minute, and then when you get to like 2 minutes or 1 minute, they'll verbally announce it. However, if you bring a watch that fits the criteria, you're only going to benefit yourself. Just by having it closer to you. You can look at it whenever you want. If it's far away, you don't have to worry about whether or not you'll be able to see it, right? So that's my suggestion, to bring a watch with you. But it has been my experience that there is a proctor putting time or announcing it.
Hi, sorry, jumping in a little bit. My question here was like if he's allotted like time for, ELA math separately, that is how the email reads, the one we received, that he has X amount of time for ELA, this much Y amount of time for math. So, will they say that, or does he just get a block, whatever it is, 4 hours block of time, and then like you said, like, the proctor just says 2 hours in or 3 hours in.
Yes, let me check what was shared in the email because I do think that will be the latest. Um,
Thank you so much.
yes.
Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. Let me just check. Okay, so I'm going to put in the chat what was shared by our manager, Ben, in terms of the structure of the exam. However, it is important to note that there is a lot of changes that are happening to the exam. So I would take I would take this as like a starting point, but be prepared for any possible outcome. So what he said was that all students will receive the reading booklet. You can move freely between reading and writing. Once the time is done, it will be collected and students will receive the math booklet. You can go freely between the math booklet as well. You will not be able to check on the reading later on as you won't have access to your booklet. So this is the latest. And I would practice for this, but be prepared for anything, which is why I always say when it comes to timing, rather than timing on a per section basis, you want to proactively time on a per question basis. Sometimes a reading section is much harder than we expected. And like I mentioned before, you won't have your essay read unless you have a certain cutoff score on multiple choice. So you have to be adaptable and flexible. And when we give these suggested times, right, you have to make a judgment on the test day if that's going to be possible or not. Okay. So yeah, the latest as of now is that they will collect the reading and essay booklet after um and and you won't be able to go back to that once you do math. Garima, do you have a question?
Yeah. So let's say you finished like your reading an essay like before like the time is up for the reading. Can you ask the proctor to give you the math booklet first, or do you have to wait until time is up?
That's a question for the real test day. Yeah, I can't say. But my thought is no, because they're not going to give you like an individual timer. They're going to be timing everyone on the section together. Of course, unless you have certain accommodations. So it's most likely not going to be allowed. Ismail?
I have an unrelated question to this, but like, how much sleep do you recommend to take before the test?
I would take a normal amount of sleep that you've tested and you've known has worked for you before, right? You should not go and take 14 hours of sleep just because you think more is better. If you've never slept 14 hours before, you don't know how your body is going to adjust and react to that. So I would suggest between 7 to 9 hours. But most importantly, you should be doing what is in your typical routine. Now is not the time to be introducing like anything new and unexpected. Okay? Yeah. Lydia, do you have a question?
Yeah, two actually. So the first one, um, so you should go through the test in the order that it gives you. Like you should do reading multiple choice, math multiple choice, and then the essay, right?
So as I put it in the chat, Lydia, maybe you can read that again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. And then the second question, you were saying like a few days ago that you were using some of the questions from the SHSAT test. Do you think that like this test like is beneficial towards that one?
You mean, do you think it's beneficial for you to study now using SHSAT questions for the Hunter exam?
No, I mean like like studying for the Hunter test, right? Does it like help? Does it get you a little bit ahead for like the SHSAT?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Even though the questions might not be the same, what it's doing is training your brain to take the things that you learn in school, which are just like, basic formulas and things like that. And now you're doing these multi-step problems, which a lot of the time involve complex patterns or logic and things like that. So yes, I would say that the SHSAT is like a step up from the Hunter exam. They're very similar. However, I will say this, the SHSAT reading section is it has like a bit more of a jump than the SHSAT math section. I feel like the level of difficulty is changes more for ELA on the SHSAT than it does for math because on math the questions are probably just going to be with bigger numbers or more steps, but like 90 to 95% of the same topics. But on the reading comprehension multiple choice, I think that the choices are trickier. The questions themselves are longer, and sometimes the multiple choices themselves are like 2 to 3 sentences or even a paragraph at times.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. Here we're just stressing the importance of getting a good night's rest. And like I said before, there's no specific number, right? I'm not a doctor giving you a recommendation. I'm a tutor trying to help you feel confident, calm, and prepared for your exam. So it's just important that you do what's best for you and you do something that you know already works. Okay. So, right. Here we're saying that the exam is offered in person and on paper. You know exactly where you will test, it's on your ticket. And remember to be there early. Use the bathroom as soon as you can. Make sure you get a good meal in. You know, again, eat something that you know works for you, whether that's something really big and filling, or maybe you just need a little boost of energy with some sweet fruits or something like that. Um, I'm also not a dietitian and I can't tell you what to eat. All I can do is say, do what works best for you and what you know works best for you. Okay. If you know that you've eaten something, during like late at night before and it has made your stomach upset the next morning, avoid that, right? Um, just, you know, treat it like a the important test that it is, but also you don't have to go out of your way. Just stick with your normal routine, review lightly and de-stress, and you'll be all set. Okay. And here we're just saying that there's certain foods that are really proven to impact your performance, right? When I go to the gym, I know I need to fuel my body and eat healthy things like um proteins and slow carbs, carbs that don't digest fast like processed chips or sweets. Um, so eat a hearty, nice meal, but definitely have something you enjoy, leave room for dessert. Um, have your favorite comfort meal or snack because what you want to do now is just, rest up and build your confidence before you walk in and take that exam. Okay, yeah, here's some examples. This one might seem a little bit silly, but I feel like it can mean a lot more than you might think. It's to have a lucky charm. If you have something that you've been using, or maybe now's a good time to make something your lucky charm. You're all here at Queller Prep for a reason, and that's because you and your parents are making a choice to invest in your education and your future. You're taking this standardized test and it's your first of many, right? Make something your lucky charm now and use it with you on all your exams in the future. Personally, I use a coin that my mom used when she was in nursing school, and she gave it to me, and now I use it and take it with me whenever I can, and I'm grateful. And so here you see we have some, things that you can bring, right? This is just something to help you feel confident, maybe remind you why you're taking this exam. It's because you're curious, bright, intelligent students. And like I said, you and your parents are making a choice to invest in your education. And what you're learning now is going to have an impact on you, whether or not you get into Hunter College High School, whether or not you decide to go there. So that's just something really, really important to remember. Like I tested for Hunter College High School and I was admitted, but ultimately I ended up going into a specialized high school. I went to Stuyvesant and I did both of my prep here at Queller Prep. And I still use the things that my tutors taught me in those classes, even though I'm not doing SHSAT questions when I was in college or when I'm at work. What I'm using is these critical thinking skills that my Queller tutors taught me. And at every stage in my educational journey, in my career, I revisit these important lessons that they taught me and I apply them at the next level. Okay. Of course, what I'm doing now, when it comes to math is much, much more involved, than what you might know at your level, but it's just like an advanced version of the same skills and strategies. Okay. Gabriel, do you have a question?
Yeah. Do you know if like to get into like the Hunter College, it's a separate test from the like um high school? Like if you get into school, are you like can you go to the college for like free, I guess?
Um, Hunter College is a CUNY, and that's part of a different um college system. And again, I'm not part of that admissions process, but I actually did go to Hunter College and I went to a program there called Macaulay Honors College, which was a full scholarship to Hunter. So yes, it was free for me, but I did not go to Hunter College High School. I do know people that went to Hunter College High School and then went to Hunter College. And then I know people that went to Hunter College High School and went to universities all over the states. So I'm not sure whether there's a direct connection, but I can say that you can go to Hunter College. It's a great school. And if you ever have any questions about that down the line, I would be more than happy to help you or answer them. Okay. And I do also teach a lot of our SHSAT classes. So, whether or not whether or not, well, no, I do eventually hope to see you all in my SHSAT class, even though I'm sure you'll do amazing and get into Hunter College High School when you take the test. But it's quite a similar exam, but they're different. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Here's just another tip. Like, you can get your parents or your sibling to write you to, put together a little. Oh,
Hey, Lena, I'm gonna interrupt for a second. Okay, everyone, this is straight from the Hunter website. Ready? You're gonna get two booklets, English first, then math. You can move freely within each booklet, and the info is on the website. You're going to have two booklets. Two booklets. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
You got it or no? Did you get it?
Two booklets.
You will have two booklets. So the whole time you're going to have two booklets. English first, then math. You got it?
Yep. Thank you, Francis. So everyone hear that? You will have two booklets, English and then math, and you will have them the whole time. Okay?
Got it? Everybody understands two booklets. Capiche? Two booklets.
Mhm.
So that means you have to start with English first, then math. Okay, keep going. Go ahead.
All right. So, yeah, as we were saying, you can have your sibling, your parent just give you like a little card or letter of emotional support that could act as your lucky charm that you take with you to your exam day. I think this is a picture that one of our Queller students maybe sent in, or I'm not sure, but something like this. And here, this is something special too. You can write yourself a letter or a journal entry about how you feel now before you take the exam. Because I think that what happens a lot of the time is we have a lot of these big feelings inside our head and we don't know what to do with them. And so when we put them on the paper, it puts things into perspective. I'm sure everyone is feeling nervous. I definitely was feeling nervous when I was taking this exam. So, what you could do is write a journal entry. If you're feeling nervous, write exactly why. Are you nervous because you feel like you haven't memorized enough math formulas? Then you figured out exactly what you need to do until Friday. Spend some time reviewing those, right? Are you nervous because you feel like you're going to make a silly mistake and you're only going to be 1 point off? Well, then you also know exactly what you need to do, which is be careful, right? And read everything carefully, read it twice, underline exactly what it's asking you to solve. Okay? So, again, you're taking a big step in the very beginning of your educational journey, which will then bleed into your career. So, the last line here is super important. Remind yourself in writing what a good student you are, how hard you work, and how hard you try. Manifest these positive thoughts, and hopefully they'll reflect in your scores. Zara, do you have a question?
Yeah, but they're still gonna take the booklets away from you, right? During a certain amount of time, right?
I think what Frances just said is, and she found this on the official website, that you will have two booklets and you will have them the entire time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that, and Frances just found that from the official Hunter website. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So here let's talk a little bit about locations. Who here already knows where they're taking it? Like, raise your hand if you know exactly where you're going to go to take it. Is it one of these places? Does anyone want to share where they're taking it? Nini, where are you taking it?
The first one, Hunter College Campus School.
Nice. Oslo, what about you?
71st East 94th between Park and Madison Avenues.
Okay, excellent. Talia? Talia. Okay, Talia's taking it at the second location. Ayushi, what about you?
The third location.
Nice. Okay. Garima?
I'm also taking it at the third location.
Yeah. The location you take it at doesn't make a difference. You're all taking the same exam. Um maybe you'll see some people you know. Definitely give them a smile. If you see your friends or your classmate, now's the time to give them some positive words of encouragement. I'm sure they're going to return them to you as well. Okay. All right. Let's read this. Ayushi, can you please read it for us?
Take the day off. The test is on Friday, January 23, 2026. If possible, consider just resting and relaxing the day before the test. Take the day off from school on January 23, 2026. Parents, consider letting your child stay at home from school the day before the test to relax, sleep in, and do some light studying. You can also pick your child up early from school around noon to get a few extra hours of downtime. If the weather is nice, play tennis, go for a walk your dog if you have one, stroll around the block, and enjoy your surroundings. Use the crisp, fresh air to clear your head before the big day. Students should lightly review their notes and materials throughout the day. Students should not take any high-stress time test 24 hours before the actual exam.
Awesome. I remember I was asking my mom to let me stay home before the exam, but she didn't let me. And I still did totally fine. So, right, what this isn't saying is that you're only going to do well if you have time to relax. It's saying that you will do a better job if you go in and take the exam on a well-rested mind. So, depending on your schedule, try to carve some time out to do something meaningful, right? First, you might want to spend some time with your friends and family, do something meaningful with them. And then, as you're getting ready for bed, do something meaningful for yourself. Block an hour to watch your favorite TV show, maybe read a couple chapters of your favorite book, build a Lego set, right? Whatever your hobby is, and then go to sleep at, an appropriate time that's worked for you and will help you be rested. Sophie, do you have a question?
Maybe you didn't see my comment, but isn't sleeping in like not a good thing to do? Because then if you're gonna get up even earlier during the test day, then when your sleep schedule will get a little wonky.
It's different for everyone because, right, there's certain students here that have like difficult workloads. They have extracurriculars here. Like maybe there's a student here who, after they log off of prep, they go to a sport and or there's something that they can't just take off just because they're also studying for Hunter. So I assume this is for those students that have extra packed schedules. They can use that as a reset day to sleep in, right? But you shouldn't be sleeping in on your real test day. I think if you do it 24 hours before, you'll be fine.
I meant like sleep schedule, like, because if you're gonna get up really early on the day of the test and then you wake up really late on the day before the test, won't you be cranky on the morning of the day of?
No, because I think that it depends more like on what time you go to bed the night before. But my most important point here is like, again, I'm not a doctor who recommends how much sleep to get, and I'm also not a dietitian who can tell you what's the best thing to eat. My best advice is to do something that has worked for you before, right? All of you, or I'm sure most of you, have taken a state test. So do what you've done typically the night before. This exam is just like that. Yeah. Okay. Jason, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I have like a really huge test tomorrow and I don't know what I should do. So should I ask to like reschedule it to like Monday or something?
Absolutely. You can ask. Maybe there's other students that are in a similar position. It really doesn't hurt to ask. Um, you also, of course, have to check your school's policies. Every school has different policies for makeup exams, and it's you definitely don't want to hurt your grade or affect it negatively, but at the same time, you also want to use the time that you have left best. So my suggestion would be to talk with your parents and check your school's policies and then decide what you think will be best, right? Maybe you don't take the day off and miss the exam, but maybe like you decide, all right, let me just focus on the Hunter exam. And if I have to make up for it, and score a little bit lower in school, that that could be fine if it means getting into Hunter, right? So, yeah. Ismail?
When you join a different school, do your grades like reset or is it like the
Yes.
same?
They reset.
Okay.
And then typically in high school, what happens is um, every year you get a quarter, every quarter you get a quarter average. And then at the end of every semester, they combine the two quarters and give you a semester average, but also your average compounds every year. So, like, your scores in ninth grade do not reset when you go to 10th grade. Your average takes into account your ninth grade and your 10th grade classes. When you get to 11th grade, your average counts your ninth, 10th, and 11th grade classes. And it's the same thing when you're in your first, second, third, and fourth year of college. Zara, do you have a question?
If we're on the wait list, is it possible for us to be pulled in like the middle of the school year?
I can't answer that. That's all depends on how many students are on the wait list that year, how many students accept the wait list. So really, our goal here is to get accepted and just to do as good of a job as you can, and then revisit the wait list option if that becomes relevant. Okay. Ayushi, do you have a question?
No, sorry. It was just like that.
No worries. Lydia?
Yeah, do you recommend when you're doing like the bubble sheet, it'll be like you'll get the bubble sheet and the packet at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Do you recommend like bubbling like let's say okay, you have number one, right? You recommend doing number one and then bubbling it, doing number two, bubbling three, bubble three, four, blah blah.
So I already answered this question. Does another student want to share? Do they remember what's the strategy you should do here? Ingrid?
You should bubble in as you're going, so that if you like miss a question that you were bubbling, you're not going to have to like keep resetting. And if you're almost out of time, you won't be trying to bubble the entire test with like 10 seconds left.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Zara, do you have a question?
No, I don't. Sorry.
This is super important. If you know that you have any accommodations, make sure you have the proper documents for that. You get the right coordination. You speak with whoever helped you get that special plan. And then make sure you know what your accommodation is when you go into the exam so that you have the fair and proper amount of time that is allowed for you. So confirm everything 10 times. Just make sure that you go into the exam and you know exactly what conditions were approved for you, whether that's extra time, how much extra time, and so on. Okay. All right. Here it says Queller's last big piece of time management is to start the Hunter exam with the math section first. I think it depends. Again, you have to make a decision tomorrow when you see the exam and when they tell you the specific instructions. But at this point, if you've never done the math section first, I don't suggest you do that for the first time on the exam. Okay? So if you've been doing it this way and you know what works for you, go ahead and do that. But if you've never done that before and you've only ever practiced with reading first, that's what you should do on the test day because it's what you're already more comfortable with. Okay? Sorry. Elena, sorry. I know that's not your name.
Yeah, my name is William. So basically my question is, so you can change the order of the booklets. I thought they just like gave you the ELA and essay booklet, and then they gave you the mathematics complete booklet. So you can
Yeah.
like tell them I want math first, technically.
No. So Francis read for us from the official Hunter website that you get 2 packets, ELA and math at the same time. So you don't have to ask anyone for anything. You just start working on the questions. Okay. Alrighty. So let's have a reader for this paragraph starting with do not. William, can you actually read this for us?
Sure. Do not fall into the trap of reading every single word in a lengthy passage. We are not at the beach here and you are not reading for leisure. Read while holding a fully sharpened pencil and annotate as you read. Circle, highlight, and star key points. Read like a warrior. Once you identify the main idea, Jump straight into the questions, eliminate extreme answer choice, and select the best possible answer choices. The more questions you answer, the better. There is no guessing penalty, so guess whatever you don't know. Many students like to guess C, but I recommend you mix it up. Choose a letter answer choice that you have not picked in a while. Mixing your answer choice up is better for the algorithm. No matter what the answers you choose, answer every single question. Don't leave anything blank. You need every point you can get. You will elaborate on more tips like this during the webinar.
Good. And so here, get a basic wristwatch and set it to noon. Francis, can you confirm, please, if this picture here is considered a basic wristwatch? Will students be allowed to take this one, which has this screen? I would be inclined to say yes, since it's pictured here, but definitely not a watch that has calling, texting, or audio quality. This watch has a timer, so I think that's why it was put here. So if you're familiar with how to use that, you can go ahead and do that. Someone says, by accommodations, what do you mean? I mean that there are certain students that are given extra time on exams. This is based on like agreements, I think, with the school, and it's something that you have to request a certain time before the exam. Sometimes it may require like a certain letter from a specialist that explains what's the reason for the accommodation, and it's different for everyone, and they get different accommodations, but the most common one is extra time. Some students take the exam separately in a different room, and it's just meant to um, give give help to anyone who needs any special requirements. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Here's another tip. Try not to have a lot of liquids before your exam because you don't want to keep running to the bathroom. That's time coming off of your watch. So go to the bathroom before you leave home. Maybe you can go to the bathroom like at a Starbucks or a cafe, while before you get online at the testing center, and then ask the proctor to use the bathroom before the clock starts. I'm sure they're going to give you a time. Okay. Dress comfortably, dress in layers, dress in something that makes you feel good and confident. Um, that's what's important here. Look at the weather ahead of time. If it's going to be a cold day, you should probably wear a sweater and maybe bring a scarf or a second heavier sweater. If it's looking like it's going to be warm, maybe you can dress a little lighter. Remember, sometimes the heat in these schools can get really hot, or sometimes it can get really cold, which is why you want to have options, okay? And lastly, don't forget to breathe, right? You've made it to the end of your hunter prep, but this is just the beginning of your real academic journey. So at the end of the day, everything we're doing now, you should treat it as your training, as baby steps for much bigger and more exciting things to come. The exams and tests that you take in the future, yes, they will be more difficult, but that's just because they're going to come with greater rewards. So with that, I do want to thank you all so much for joining us for our Hunter Cram. I wish you all the very best of luck. You have my email. You have Dasha's email. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any last minute questions. And also, please, please, please reach out to us months later when you get your decisions, when you get your acceptances. We want to be there to celebrate with you your growth and progress. And so that's really it. And does anyone have any final questions? Is there anything that anyone wants to share before we log off? Oliver?
Thank you for teaching everyone, Hina.
Of course. Thank you everyone for being in my class. I've had such a lovely time with you. And believe it or not, every time I learn from my students, you guys teach me shortcuts. You remind me some tricky things that I might have forgotten since I was in your shoes. So it's always a pleasure. If you have to log off now, bye. I wish you the best of luck.
Aw, thank you, everybody. We're saying thank you. Thank you. How was Lena, everyone? How was Lena? Good?
Good.
Yes.
Good or great?
Yeah, good.
Lena, you're so good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis. I
You did a
always
great job. I've known you many, many years. This is quite a long life we've had together.
yeah.
We're so proud of you. And I just want to remind Isabel, Sophie, Noah, Karina, Samara, everyone, remember, it's only a test. It's not a big deal. And by the way, you're definitely going to get into Stuyvesant or another school because like after all this Hunter prep, you're going to be yawning through the SHSAT and you'll come back to
guys are
Quiller. You'll do more
ahead
prep
of
with us.
everyone, right, Francis? Like
It's
in
just a
the past.
test.
Yeah.
Bye, Lena. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Good luck. Keep us
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Only a test. It's not a big deal. And if you don't get into Hunter, it's no big deal. The school has no windows. Do you really want to be in a school with no windows all the time? No. If it doesn't, if it's not meant to be, it's not. You're meant to get vitamin D sunshine, okay? Please don't worry. If you don't get in, you don't get in. It's okay. You'll go to Stuyvesant, okay? You'll be fine.
Yep.
Like Lena.
Yes, and if you ever have any questions or want to connect with me or anyone else at Queller, if you have a tutor that you really loved, stay in touch. We have so many amazing classes for high school, college, and even graduate school. So we just want to see you all in our future classes. Okay?
Yeah, you'll come back for SHSAT.
Thank
Easy.
you.
And Lena can be your teacher. Lena can be your SHSAT teacher, right?
And then they can come back and be tutors here at Queller too.
A few years later. That is how it works. That's the full circle. Lena was a student and then she became a teacher. And now here she is.
Yep.
That's full circle.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone. Get a great night's rest and best of luck. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Francis.
Lena, thank you so much. Lena, I'm going to send you a message really quickly because I want the recording to this right away.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to send that over to me?
Yeah, Zoom will send it to me as soon as I end the meeting.
Oh, they will? Okay. And then you'll email it to me right away.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll be waiting. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.